guys, what's going on? This is David Chen. You're on another edition of Pandanomics Podcast, New York Weekly's #1 podcast. And right now, we have the one and only, a good friend of mine, the legend, Joey Hunter. Joey, how you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great. It's so, hey, this is my first podcast, if you could believe it.
I can't believe that, man. I mean, that actually means a lot to me, considering that you're such a legend in the industry and everything you've done, that you're doing your first podcast with me, your friend, and that means a lot. And before we start off a little bit about this, you know, Joey, you've had an incredible career, right? You're co-president of Ford Models, right? You coined the word supermodel. You put some of the biggest models and biggest brands and biggest names into the world of business. You really kind of crossed that bridge, which when we talk on the phone, I always say this is what led to what the current influences are now, what the current bridges are, and things like that. And you did it in such a remarkable, respectable manner, right? And that's what's so amazing about it. And before we start, I got to tell everyone how I met you, because we got to give a big shout out to Big V. I am in New York. I'm roused. I'm hanging out. Legendary restaurant. You know everything about it. Hear about all the big names and everybody. And I'm with Vito, and we're just sitting there hanging out, and we're just talking, right? Vito's uncle owns a joint, and in walks the slick-looking dude, right? Slick-looking guy, right? Good looking. He's got everything on. He's got nice suit on, everything came. And it's Joey Hunter. And Vito looks at me and goes, "You know that guy?" I was like, "Yeah." He goes, "He used to run with all the big models, still runs with all the big models. He's the big name. He ran Ford." And I was like, "What the heck?" And I immediately went over and I was like, "Dude, I gotta talk to this guy, get his photo, because I gotta call my fiance and let him know that Joey Hunter's sitting in front of me." So that's what I thought. I was like fanned out at that moment. I never told you that story. I'm gonna tell you that now, live on. But it was great. And so tell us about yourself. Tell us how you got to that career and all the amazing things you've done.
You know, I started out in life as a doo-wop singer, if you believe it or not. I used to sing on a corner with a bunch of guys, and so I thought I had a great voice, and we all thought we were great looking, and we did cut a record way back in the 50s. We cut a record. We all hung out at the Brill Building down on Broadway, and I was going to high school, and then I went off to college, you know, Brooklyn College, of course, so I didn't have to leave my family's home. I just left to go to school. And we were doing record hops and singing at different confraternities and little venues around the city, Long Island, and places like that. And I figured if I was doing it, I may as well become an actor. So I started studying acting, and I started doing the little walk-on parts and things like that. But I was still going to I was going to college, and I was working on the weekends as a captain in a nightclub. So I was making a decent living, you know, in those days. A few $100s on a weekend was pretty good for a 17, 16, 17-year-old kid. I finally dropped out of college because at the end of my college career, I was going to become a gym teacher. And I was making more as a model at that point and as an actor than I would make as a gym teacher. So I said, I may as well get out of the business, you know, really start working as an actor and make some real money. So I did that for a while, a long time. And in the meantime, I never lost sight of my working on the weekends and supplementing my income at the nightclubs. I finally got to a point where I had a whole saga of working summers up in the Catskill Mountains, which at that point was really, really big time. Every big time comedian, singer, Tony Bennett, Jack Carter, Jerry Lewis, everybody performed up in the Catskills. And I worked as a waiter in a club and a bellhop, and she's making a lot of money and doing my modeling and doing my acting. And finally, I hit the wall. I hit the wall as an actor. Well, I was a good type, but I wasn't a very good actor. And at that time of my life, my type was in. I was a typical young kid, juvenile. I could be a delinquent. I could be the boy next door. I could be uh, the guy jumping on a trampoline. I could swing on a high bar. I did flips off buildings, off basketball courts, and so I was very athletic, and I found my niche. But I hit the wall where I could never make the transition from a young guy to an older guy. I was always a Joey and never a Joseph, and most guys in those days who were Italian looking, I should say, or Mediterranean. I don't know what the proper word is these days to use for a guy like me back in the 50s and 60s who had olive skin and dark eyes and dark hair. I mean, I was kind of different in those days in the entertainment business, except for maybe Frank Sinatra or Dean Martin or people like that who were much older. But I was a kid, so I had a nickname growing up, which was the Hunter. They used to call me Joey the Hunter. It's a long story why I got that name, but it came really from a horse, but it was expanded on into meaning lots of different things. But I usually leave it as I rode a horse by the name of Hunter in Prospect Park, which was very unusual for an Italian kid from Brooklyn to go riding in Prospect Park on a weekends. And eventually, I worked down a stable and uh, owned horses all my life, and always rode all my life. So I finally hit this wall where I couldn't work anymore, and I couldn't make the transition to an older guy. Uh, so I asked Jerry Ford for a job, and that's a story in itself too, because when I moved to New York in the '60s, I was a member of the New York Athletic Club, and I had a junior membership. And why I had a junior membership is because I was on the gym team at the athletic club, which they had at that time. Jerry Ford was a college graduate, and he played squash at the New York Athletic Club. Now, coming from Brooklyn, the only squash I knew, we called it a gugutz, which was grown in a garden. And he was this guy playing squash, and he invited me to come and learn how to play squash. So I became a squash player with Jerry Ford, and unlikely. And eventually, I became a tennis player too, socially. And so I became friends with Jerry Ford. And finally, when I had hit that proverbial wall and weren't able to make that transition and continue earning any money, I said, let me get out of this business and let me become an agent. Why don't I go to work for Ford? So I did ask him for a job. And at first, he couldn't give it to me. And then, as luck means a lot, guys, in the right place, right time. Luckily, the woman who was running the Ford men's division decided to open up the Wilhelmina men's division. Wilhelmina at that point was just opening up. She had just opened up a women's division. And so Jenna, who ran our division at Ford, decided to open up the men's division. So sure enough, he calls me, says, Joe, would you like to come and run the men's division at Ford's? And I said, wow, that's great. I stepped into the void. I took over the men's division, built it up to a huge business. Of course, I knew every guy in the business. And when I became an agent, they all came to Ford. So my billing skyrocketed, and I knew all the clients from working with them. So it was easy for me to entertain them, to be able to go out with them, to be able to suggest people. And I had a great crew of agents working with me. They were terrific. And together we put together a men's division that, bar none, was the best. And, and Eileen and Jerry Ford working for them, first of all, they were the straightest people you ever want to meet, and the fairest. They were very fair with all their people that worked with them, and fair with all their friends. And and it sort of rubbed off on me, the character, Jerry's character of being very fair with people and very open-minded. And he and I started working together really very closely. Eileen was the eye of the agency. She really had the knack of how to pick the best kids and really knew what she was doing and kept relationships. And although she was strict, very strict, and people called her a mother hen, but she had her light side and she was able to understand most of the girls that worked for her. So I started working with Jerry on all the contracts and on the different aspects of the modeling business. Jerry and I started, we started the residuals in print. Before you did a job, you got paid, and that was it. We decided, you should get paid every year. You should get paid every 6 months. You should get paid every 13 weeks, just like SAG paid peoples for TV commercials. So we initiated that into the business. We drew up new releases, which gave people usage fees or usage terms, 6 months, 3 months. And we charged for all this and started charging fees. So basically, if you worked an hour for $100, you may get another hour for the use of the picture as a billboard. You may get 2 hours for the use of the picture as a point of purchase. So we started all that. So basically, when a cosmetic girl did a job for $10,000 for the day, by the end of the day, if they used the picture and everything that they said they would or that we negotiated, she could make upward of $100,000 on that one picture being used around the world. We had the world sectioned off. The internet was not there. So if you wanted to have a picture in France, you had to buy it for France. If you wanted it for England, you had to buy it for England. So it was a whole different ballgame. And we basically started all that with Jerry and myself. And we initiated the 20% commission versus the 10% commission by giving up our license as an employment agency and becoming a management company. We also, at that time, we were borrowing money from the bank, which was at a very high interest, and we were paying our models every week, whereas and waiting to get paid for 60, 90, 200 days. And so we started charging a service fee to the client for paying the models, because the models were independent contractors, which they still are, and we would give them their paycheck at the end of the week, whether they worked for $10 or $10,000. They got a paycheck at the end of the week, and we borrow that money from the bank to pay them as an in between. So that all started. So I like to say, like the really modern day modeling business started with the Fords when I was there, and I basically did the business end. In the beginning, I did the guys. I mean, I like good-looking guys, and I would find these great matinee. I call them matinee idols. Every one of them could have been a movie star, And they were all sporty, and they were all from all different walks and types of life, and they were all my good friends, and I treated them like family. And that's one thing they instilled in me, to treat everybody like your family. And we had a family going on. We'd play softball, and we were the best in the advertising league, and we threw the best parties after softball with all the beer and the wine and the Italian food, and people would come to my house on the weekends, and I initiated Christmas parties where you had to wear a tuxedo, and all the guys and girls would get dressed up and look just absolutely gorgeous. I mean, the business in those days was a beautiful and pretty business. It was built on dreams. It was built on, I would love to be like him. I would love to be like her. I would love to have that perfume just emulate from my body. I would just, it was like you said, oh my God, would that really happen to me? So this is the business then. The business now has changed a lot. Let me get off the subject, the supermodel, the subject of the supermodel. There was such things as a supermodel. I would say going way, way back, that Wilhelmina was a supermodel. And a lot of those girls was supermodels. But I think Jerry and myself, and we used it to our advantage. We finally decided to tell advertisers that this model is a supermodel. And I never forget when we first told some guy up at Gray Advertising, I forget his name. His name was Jerry. That I think we used Cheryl Teagues as an example. We said Cheryl was a supermodel, and that's why you should give her more money. Well, the guy looked at us and thought we were crazy. He said, "Are you nuts? What's a supermodel?" And Jerry and I were getting into that a supermodel is more than a face. A supermodel has a name. She was born in a particular place. She went to high school. She went to college. Some didn't go to college. She played sports. She ate avocados, or she ate something else, or she would not have cereal for breakfast, or that they had a life. They were a person with a name. So, of course, the guy didn't believe us, but sure enough, he, as advertisers did in those days, they did one of their surveys, and sure enough, everybody said, that blonde is not just a blonde, but that's Cheryl Teagues. And one of the prices we paid to get more money is they decided that they wanted to use the name of the girl in the cosmetic ad, which in the beginning we said, oh, that's going to cost you a lot of money. You can't do that. We were so happy that they were going to start using the girls' names, because then every girl had a name. I want to be like Christy. I want to be like Lauren. I want to be like Cheryl. Oh, Rachel. And then, and we finally got what we wanted, just like the girl in the TV show and the guy in this TV show. So we started all that, and of course, guys, if you look back, a lot of your actresses and actors came from the modeling business. A lot of actors and actresses were all struggling to make a living, and they made a living modeling. A lot of them made a damn good living modeling. Matthew Fox was a model. The kid Josh, Jack Scalia, Steve Shortridge. I mean, there were so many guys, Doug Barr, that were models, and had to do it to continue acting, to make money so they could act. And some of them didn't want to work as a waiter, but some did work as a waiter or a waitress. So the modeling business was a launching pad for a lot of big careers. Kim Basinger came with us when she was 16, and she won the Academy Award. Jennifer Connelly came to us when she was 10. Brooke Shields came to us when she was 8, and I think Jennifer came at the same age. I'm not great with ages, especially with women. And all these girls came from the modeling ranks, and they all worked their way up, and they all were very dedicated actresses. That they knew what they wanted, and they knew how to go about and get it by working hard, studying hard, and of course, supporting themselves. The main thing, kids growing up, is you got to look for what you want to do, and you got to strive to attain your dream. But you also have to make a living to get to that point. Sometimes mom and dad don't have the funds to keep you, so you have to do it yourself. And I got nothing against mom and dad giving me a few bucks, because I always looked to them to get as much money as I could from them, whatever I could. But I also earned my own money, and I think that's the key: is earning, taking, and earning. But if you could earn and be on your own, I think you make your family very happy. So that's how I got into the business, and gave me a great career. I got a bunch of kids, bunch of wives too. I hate to say it, but I wasn't great at marriage, but I believe I'm a great father, and my kids are all doing well, and I'm very proud of them. And that's what brings us to today. And now, of course, after all these years in the business, I went from Ford I left Ford after I became a partner, and they brought me out, and I became partners with an agency from Paris, worked with them a little while, and then they bought me out of that, and then I opened up a software company called Model Wire, and we were supplying software to all the different model agencies and talent agencies around the country. And now I'm an expert, and that's because of all the years. And I work with a lot of lawyers on a lot of illegal use of pictures, contracts, and different things pertaining to the entertainment business, which has been very lucrative for me, and it keeps me busy and keeps me involved. I like working as consultant to a lot of different agencies, and a lot of my friends are still in the business, so we get together and we're able to chat about different things that are happening in the business. And I'm still very involved with the immigration issues, with the independent contract issues, and things that are going on up in Albany. So that's where we're at today. And I got to say, for a kid from Brooklyn who started out in this life as a gym teacher, who my mother and father were very proud of, and when I told them I was becoming an actor, thought I was out of my mind. How could you be an actor? What are you going to do? What do they do? Well, this is what they do. They go on to become businessmen, and that's where we're at today. So David was nice enough. I go to Rayo's on a Thursday night. I've had a table up there for 40 years. And why I have a table up there for 40 years is because I used to entertain. So I used to take all the young guys and girls up there, and we used to sing and dance. And sure enough, the waiter up there, who eventually became the owner, was an actor. And so, of course, being an agent, I got him an agent. I got him an agent, and of course, he got a part, and he got a TV commercial. So he loved me because, and he was a doo-wop singer. So we used to sing together up there at the restaurant with all the kids. And so I've been going there for 40 years, and she goes, I'm still singing up there on a Thursday
Oh,
night.
they don't get it, man. On a Thursday night, when I pulled up, it reminded me of what I remember watching, like the '60s, right? Like here's an Italian joint, me an immigrant kid. I'm coming in, I'm watching this. It was like watching a freaking movie, man. And like I can't even explain how much this is a movie because I've done some really cool stuff in my life. I've been so blessed with this stuff. But seeing you walking in and the way that you walked in, what's up, Joe? How you doing, Joe? Hey, Joe, what's up, Joe? I miss those days. I miss those days of just politeness and knowing each other and just hearing those words, right? And then you look around and it's got all this history and culture and all these famous photos, and you got Vito sitting there telling the stories, and then you're sitting there and you're getting this great freaking meal, and like Vito's uncle's laying it on like dish after dish after dish. And I'm thinking to myself, you hear about these things, you might go to these things, but when you go to these things, it's more extravagant and more amazing it is. And then you guys start singing, and everybody starts singing. I start singing, Vito, everyone starts singing, and it's like Thanksgiving, a real
Yes.
happy Thanksgiving. And that's what's amazing about that, and I wanted to ask you, a couple questions as you build this big giant business, you build this big giant practice, and you were a guy who started off as a doo-wop singer, as a gym teacher, and it took some real cojones, right, to do that, and a lot of faith in yourself. And I don't think people understand that as an entrepreneur, as a business person, you're really just trying to figure it out, right? But the first thing is that it takes giant balls to actually do it, right? And then the ability to get it done. but you made it in such an exquisite era. What do you think was one of the key pivotal things that helped you grow that business at the size that it was?
Well, I brought a lot of street smarts to the business. You got to understand, Jerry and Eileen were from Southern background. He was an officer in the Navy. Uh, she was a little toughie from this the Gold Coast, Long Island. So she was tough. She knew her business, but Jerry wasn't. And sort of, I backed Eileen up on a lot of stuff, and I backed, and I sort of got Jerry to flex his muscles, and with my street smarts and Jerry's really intelligence, I think we made a great combination, and we were able to make the right decisions for a lot of the models that we represented. We started that. Jerry started that whole contract thing of securing contracts for these girls for cosmetics, with I guess to a Charlie Refson way back, and and I became friends with the sons. I became friends with a lot of the people in the business. I really, you know, whereas Eileen and Jerry were entertaining the editors of magazines, I was entertaining all the people on Madison Avenue.
Hey.
I was down in the trenches. Now you've got to understand too. Back in the '60s and '70s and '80s, Madison Avenue was dominated by people from New York, Italians, Jewish, and Irish. That was Madison Avenue. It was a dream business. It was built on dreams. And all these guys were creative. I still see them. They were so creative. They knew what they were doing. And they were all from around the city: the Bronx, Staten Island, Long Island, Queens, Brooklyn, Jersey. So it was dominated by that type of person. And I was that type of person. I was the first model agent that wasn't a piano player, or a guy who graduated from an Ivy League school. We were down in the trenches, and these guys were so creative, and they came out with all these, with the Clairol, with all the different ads for Revlon, for the hair products, and all the clothing companies. At that time, the menswear business was huge, and there was so much advertising, and plus there was 17 magazine, which was dominating the newsstands with all the ads for young kids, and so I was there at the right place, right time, and I sort of gave Ford's, which was the Cadillac of the business, or I should say the Rolls Royce of the business, I gave it credibility. I gave it, oh, you want me to talk to Jerry? You want me to talk to Eileen? No, I think I'll talk to Joey. So there was somebody else for them to talk to, and especially the kids that were in the agency. Half of them were terrified of Eileen because she was so strict. The rest of them were afraid of Jerry because he was older. So there was nobody else to talk to but the Joey Hunter. He would understand. He's close to our age.
I love that. I love the relatability and the ability to bridge and the ability to work with all these cultures, right? I love the fact that you guys thought of the word residual. I love the fact that you guys coined together and put together the whole print media and the way that these models, and quite frankly, it's what Instagram has become because of that thought process that you guys coined out. And so that's beyond amazing to think of that process and the ability to kind of regain. You talked about cash flow and how much of an issue cash flow is in a business. I don't think a lot of people understand that and how tight it gets.
You see, now in the business, you do a job, and as a manager, I'm at the mercy of Macy's or H&M, they're not paying me for 90 to 100 days.
God, it
But
sucks.
my client, my model, wants to get paid now. So
Yep.
back in those days, we borrowed the money, and we were borrowing it at 10% at that time. I think it was really some ridiculous amount, but we were paying every week, whether you worked or not. No, excuse me. If you worked, you got paid. If you turned in your vouchers, you got paid. So well, we would be paying out a tremendous amount of money. So that's why we started charging the client a service fee. We said, hey, if we're going to loan your workers your money, we want to get paid for being that in between guy. And of course, the residuals. I mean, when you did a commercial for TV, if it was on one show, you got paid. If it was on another show in the middle of the night, you got paid a different fee. So the key is that why do a print ad and not get paid for all the different usages? There was the subway usage. There was usage on billboards, outdoor billboards, indoor billboards, counter cards, brochures, all these different usages. Oh, we even had broken it down to guys try to say, oh, we're only using it in Spanish Harlem, or we're only using it in Harlem. Okay, pay for Harlem. You won't have to pay for the rest of the city, just pay for Harlem. So we had it broken down, and then they say, oh, Saudi Arabia, there's only 20 people living there. All right, pay us for 20 people, and then if you want someplace else, there's 100 or 200 or 1,000. All the demographics fell into place, of payments, and it was complicated, but in the end, we made money, and the model made a lot of money.
When I hear the story, and obviously the way that you ran business and the mentality then and the mentality now is a little bit different, but the principles are the same, right? Now, you're building this empire at a very young age, listening to two people that were somewhat relatable to you, but in the industry that you liked. And most young people now, when they get to that point, they quit, they leave. They get a little too in their own heads and they think they're greater than. But you didn't do that. You realized it. And I want to talk about why you didn't do that, because ultimately it was a pivotal success of everybody winning and you became the president of the whole entire company. Have you seen that happen? Why does that happen? What are your thoughts on that?
I love my business and I love my lifestyle. I went to Rayo's on a Thursday. You wanted to go out with me on a Thursday, you went to Rayo's. I couldn't give a shit where you wanted to go. And I took my clients. I went to a baseball game. I took my clients. I took them places that I wanted to be. When I had my house in the Hamptons, I took them to my house. We were going to go fishing that morning because if we didn't catch any fish, we wouldn't have any fish for dinner that night. So basically, I loved doing what I was doing, and I wanted them to do the same thing, And, like in the case of Rayos, I mean, I've taken Ron Woods, Rod Stewart, so many different celebrities there, Jerry Hall, people who maybe would have wanted to do something else. But if you're going out with me, that's what we're doing. We're going to 54. We're going to Jim McMullen's. Then we're going to 54. And that was our routine. And they fell into that routine because they loved doing it. Like I tell kids, you got to love what you're doing. If you don't like it, get out and do something else. But when you love something, it all works for you. It's simple to do. But when you have to buck the trend and, geez, I hate going to work. I hate doing this. I have to hate meeting this guy today. Oh, do I really have to talk to them today? Then it's time for you to find something else.
I never got that, and I love that you say that, because every good leader knows that they need the team to make it work, right? You're just the captain, right? You need everyone else to do that, and the captain needs to lead. You grew with some phenomenal names. I mean, we're talking, like you said, Brooke Shields, Naomi Campbell, right? One of the biggest ones, right? Tell me the story. Tell me when you met her. Tell me what it was and how she got to become an elite supermodel, because you coined the term supermodel. And in my brain, when I hear supermodel, Naomi Campbell is the supermodel, right? How did you do that? I mean, what a phenomenal thing.
Well, Naomi was simple. She had made it in London, and I think she originally came over to the United States with Elite. And so she had a very big reputation, but she had a very sketchy reputation. Who could sit and say she was a pain in the ass, and who could say she was a dream? You know, but we picked her up, or she came with us later on, and she was established, and it was just sort of maintaining Naomi and also maintaining her reputation. Of going to bat for her because she could be difficult and she couldn't be difficult. And I've traveled with Naomi just to make sure she got to where she was going, and she did what she was doing. And there were a lot of girls like that we'd have to hold their hands, to make sure. And at that point, Eileen was not really in communicating well with the Naomis and the Christy Turlingtons and the Christy Blankleys. She was a little too strict with them. Whereas I was lenient, not lenient, but I understood what they were doing. It's like today. I don't think I could represent the girls of today because I don't think I understand them. But in that day and age, I understood these kids. I understood exactly what they were doing, what they wanted, where they were going. And I think that's the important part. I may have been, well, of course, I was much older than them. So they could have been like my daughters, you know? And so I understood what they wanted in life and where they were going. Whereas Eileen was a generation removed. She knew what Wilhelmina wanted, what the Iris Bianchi wanted. She knew about that, but she didn't know what this other generation wanted. And eventually, I think you grow out of it and you need somebody younger to come in to be closer to them. Not somebody who's nuts, but somebody who, like myself, who I felt was a family man. I had kids, I had a wife. I was able to go away on the weekends, invite the girls, invite the guys, you know, and be this, you know, figure of sensibility, and understand what they wanted out of life. And I think that was the key to my success. And I think that was the key to Ford's because we had this beautiful transition, you know, from the Fords to myself and I can't forget my partner, Marion. I went to work at Ford and my friend Marion Smith, who was a stylist in the business, came to work the same time I did. She went down on the women's board and I was up at the men's. And she was with me right until the end. And she was a partner also. But she ran the women's division with Eileen. She was to Eileen what I was to Jerry. And between the two of us, and she was a kid from Queens and very sharp and very smart, but the girls knew her. The girls she understood the kids. And that was the key is understanding your models. I had guys from Hawaii, guys from California, surfers who had nothing but water on their brains, I mean, just all they wanted to do was surf and surf and surf. Where could we surf? But these were good looking guys and you had to harness their energies and get them pointed in the right direction, And I think I was at the right place, right time. I don't know how else to say it.
I love hearing that. As we continue to have this, and we're about to wrap up, I want to ask you something. Through all these experiences and all these amazing things that you've done, what is one piece of advice that you would give our audience, our listener, just about life or in business in general?
Be nice to everybody. You never know when you're going to meet them again in life. Uh, it'll always come back and bite you on the ass. So the key is there were a lot of people I disliked, and to this day I dislike them, but nobody will ever know who they are because I've never expressed it. I never told them, and I'll give you a perfect example. There are a bunch of guys when I was in the business. They were the club guys. Usually they either had a lot of money or they had no money, but they were charming as shit, man. You get a little girl from Omaha coming to town. After a week, she comes into your office. I'm in love, Joey. I'm in love. I'm in love. Really? Who's the guy? She mentions the name. It's like on my list of most hated guys in the business. I said, really? What a fabulous fucking guy. Oh, what a sweetheart. When are you going to bring him in? I want to say hello. I haven't seen him in a while. You had to do that because you know what? If you said, this piece of shit, he just went out with this other girl and he went out with the other girl, she'd leave you and go to another agency. He'd take it to the other agency. So you just go like this. I love him. Let's go out sometime. And after 2 or 3 weeks, that guy was gone. And then the girl would come in crying and you'd say, oh, so sorry you lost and you were such a nice guy, blah, 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 blah. You can't express your feelings. You lose the girl.
I don't think you can ever express your feelings at this point.
You lose the girl. The girl would be at the next. The guy would take her from one agent and he'd get a commission.
Yeah.
He'd say, look, I'm going to take Susie from Joey. Would you give me a 5% commission if I bring her over? The guy,
Lord,
Johnny Casablanca would say, sure, bring her over.
It's amazing. I really appreciate that viewpoint. I think a lot of, like you said, is just in order to maintain what you have to do, you have to be relatable. You have to not express your feelings, as we've said, but you got to be a nice guy, like you said, right? I mean,
you got to be a nice guy.
I mean, look, I can't really say what we're working on, but I can tell you, in all realms, we were both nice guys, right? I was actually respectful because I saw you, and I was talking to you, and we just talked. It wasn't like the thing we're talking about now in business we thought we were ever going to do, right? It wasn't even a discussion. And I just said something in passing to you, and then you caught it. And you said, say that to me again. I said to you one more time. You said, send that to me. And that's how it all happened. That's how our friendship happened, right? And it was a random Thursday night, right? 30, 40 years later, little Vito becomes big Vito. He finally brings me in. I get to have dinner. And you just never know, right? Because you said, be nice. And that is living proof of what you said.
Exactly.
I love it, Joey. Joey, thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome.
Let's talk about your social media, because I know you have your Instagram. Tell everyone what your social media name is on Instagram.
The Joey Hunter.
The Joey Hunter. The one and only Joey Hunter. And Joe, I know you're going out of town soon, so I wish you, great, safe trip. I'm going to give you a call in a bit.
I just had a birthday, and I'm going over to Italy. My friends are taking me to Italy. My friends that I grew up with, a lot of the guys that I grew up with, we're all going to go to visit Italy for about 7 days, see a bunch of my relatives, and have a good time.
Have a happy, great birthday. perfect timing during New York Fashion Week, which I didn't realize as we were filming this. So the timing was even better, man.
Fashion Week is busy this week here too. I mean, yesterday I usually go to Balthazar for my birthday, and it's always during Fashion Week. And the guy said, Joe, it's going to be jammed. And sure enough, it was jammed with all the fashionistas.
All the new fashionistas. Joey, legend as it is, man. Thank you so much, brother. I appreciate it. Have a safe trip. I'll talk to you soon.